You think you're safe in your own home, in your car, in your daily routine, but what if someone is always watching, waiting for the perfect moment to make their move? Story 1. The Whispering Man. Jake had never been the type to get scared easily. He was a college student, used to pulling all-nighters, often alone in his small off-campus apartment. His 2 roommates were gone for the weekend, which meant he could finally relax, game late into the night, and enjoy some quiet. But quiet soon became the last thing he wanted. At 2 a.m., just as he was dozing off in bed, he heard it. A whisper. It was faint, almost too faint to notice. He sat up, frozen, and listened. At first, he thought he imagined it, but then it came again. "I see you." His skin prickled with fear. It sounded like a voice, but distant, almost inside the walls. His heart pounded as he grabbed his phone. No notifications, no texts. He forced himself to breathe, convincing himself it was just a neighbor or maybe the wind outside. But then footsteps. They were slow, deliberate, and inside his apartment. He reached for the baseball bat under his bed, his breathing shallow. His bedroom door was closed, but he could see the light from the hallway seeping in from the crack underneath. Shadows moved. Someone was out there. Slowly, he stood up and tiptoed toward the door, his hands trembling as he gripped the bat. He hesitated before reaching for the handle. Maybe it was just his imagination. Maybe, creak, the sound of his front door opening. Jake's blood ran cold. He pressed his ear against the door and listened. Silence. Then, the whisper again, right outside his door. "I see you." He yanked the door open, bat raised. But the hallway was empty. The front door was slightly ajar, swaying ever so slightly, as if someone had just slipped through it. His heart pounded as he stepped forward, his stomach churning in fear. Then he saw it. The peephole of his front door was covered from the outside. Someone had been standing there, whispering through his door, watching him through the peephole. And he never even knew. Story 2. The Man in the Vents. Emily had always wanted to live alone. After years of having roommates, she finally found the perfect 1-bedroom apartment. A little older, but cheap and in a safe neighborhood. It was a fresh start, a chance to finally have peace and quiet. But quiet soon turned into something else. The first night she heard it, a light scraping sound in the walls. She dismissed it as old pipes or maybe a mouse, but as the nights went on, the noises became stranger. Scraping turned into shuffling. Tapping turned into breathing. One night, while watching TV, she muted the volume after hearing something odd. A cough. Her breath hitched. She sat there, frozen, the room thick with silence. The sound had come from above her, the air vent. Slowly, her eyes drifted upward. The vent cover was slightly loose. A chill crept down her spine. She had never touched that vent before. Her heart pounded as she grabbed her phone and turned on the flashlight. With shaking hands, she aimed it at the vent and stepped closer. The dust-covered slats made it hard to see inside. But as she adjusted the angle, 2 eyes stared back at her. She stumbled backward, a scream caught in her throat. She barely had time to react before the vent cover pushed open. Something moved inside the duct. Adrenaline took over. She bolted for the front door, flinging it open and sprinting outside. Her hands shook as she called 911. Within minutes, the police arrived. What they found was horrifying. A man had been living in her vents. He had carved out a space in the air ducts to watch her through the grates. There was a small pile of belongings, a pillow, empty food wrappers, even a notebook filled with notes about her daily routine. He had been watching her for weeks. The most chilling part? The police found footprints leading from the crawl space to her bedroom. She hadn't been sleeping alone. Story 3. The wrong passenger. Tom had been driving for a rideshare company for 2 years. He had seen it all: drunken passengers, weird conversations, even the occasional celebrity. But nothing compared to that one night in November. It was a quiet shift when he got a request from an area just outside town. It was late, around 1 a.m., and the pickup spot was in a dark, empty street with no streetlights. He pulled up, glancing around. No one in sight. Then the back door opened. A man in a dark hoodie slid into the seat, head low. Tom checked the mirror, trying to make out his face, but the hood covered most of it. "Where to?" Tom asked. The man didn't respond at first. Then, in a low whisper, he muttered, "Home." Tom swallowed. Something about his voice sent a chill down his spine, but he brushed it off and started driving. The man didn't say another word, just stared straight ahead. After 10 minutes, Tom glanced at the mirror again. The back seat was empty. His heart stopped. He slammed the brakes, nearly veering off the road. He spun around, but the door had never opened. The man had just vanished. His mind raced. He hadn't heard the door unlock. There was no way someone could disappear like that. His phone buzzed. A new ride request. He glanced at the screen, and his stomach dropped. It was from the same pickup location, from the same passenger. His blood turned to ice as he stared at the screen, his hands shaking. Slowly, he looked up at his rearview mirror and saw the man smiling at him from the back seat.